History is full of wars fought over land and ideology. But the defining war of our future is being fought right now with currencies and computer code. A powerful alliance of nations, known as BRICS, has effectively declared an economic war on the United States. Their mission? To dismantle America's single greatest source of power, the US dollar. This isn't just speculation. The first shots have already been fired through ambitious plans for a new global payment system designed to bypass, and maybe one day, make the US dollar obsolete. So, how did we get to this point? How can a group of nations possibly challenge a financial system that has dominated the world for nearly a century? And what happens when the planet's rising powers decide they are done playing by America's rules? This is the story of a new economic Cold War, a quiet conflict pitting the BRICS versus USA economy that is already reshaping our world. Stay with me as we break down the strategy, the weapons, and the high-stakes endgame of this financial rebellion. To get why this is such a big deal, you first have to understand the weapon at the center of it all, the United States dollar. For over 80 years, the dollar hasn't just been America's currency, it's been the world's currency. This wasn't an accident. It was forged in the ruins of World War II at a conference in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. There, world leaders, desperate for stability, agreed to peg their currencies to the US dollar, which was itself backed by gold. The dollar became king. Even after the US ditched the gold standard in the 1970s, the dollar's reign continued thanks to a brilliant strategic pivot, the petrodollar system. A deal was struck with Saudi Arabia and later OPEC to price and trade oil, the lifeblood of the global economy, only in US dollars. Any country wanting to buy oil had to buy greenbacks first. This created a permanent, massive, global demand for American currency. This dominance is locked in by a critical piece of financial plumbing called SWIFT. Think of it as the private messaging app for the world's banks. Over 11,000 banks use SWIFT to send payment orders, and the vast majority of those transactions are in dollars. Because this system is overseen by Western powers, it gives the United States and its allies something terrifying, an off switch for any country's economy. This setup has given the United States what a French finance minister once called an exorbitant privilege. It means America can essentially print money to pay its debts, fund its enormous military, and cover its trade deficits, while the rest of the world has to hold dollars to participate in the global economy. It's the ultimate economic superpower. The ability to control the flow of global money is, in many ways, more powerful than any army. It's the power to sanction, to isolate, and to economically cripple any nation that steps out of line. For decades, the world went along with it. But now, the ground is shaking, and the very nations subject to this system are forging a weapon to break it. Every revolution has a trigger, a moment that forces a total strategic rethink. For the de-dollarization movement, that moment was the full-scale financial sanctioning of Russia in 2022. When the West moved to isolate Moscow, they didn't just freeze a few assets, they unleashed their entire arsenal of financial warfare. Major Russian banks were booted from SWIFT, effectively throwing them off the global financial highway. Hundreds of billions of Russia's foreign currency reserves, held in banks across the globe, were frozen. This was the financial equivalent of a nuclear strike. For countries outside the Western bubble, especially the BRICS nations, it was a terrifying wake-up call. It was a brutal demonstration that the world's financial plumbing, the dollar, SWIFT, all of it, wasn't neutral. It was a system controlled by the US, and it could be turned into a weapon in a heartbeat. Leaders in Beijing, New Delhi, Brasilia, and Pretoria watched as a G20 economy was methodically unplugged from the world. The message was loud and clear: if it can happen to Russia, it can happen to anyone. Any country with an independent foreign policy, any nation that might find itself on the wrong side of Washington, was vulnerable. Their hard-earned national savings could be vaporized overnight. This single act turned a vague desire for financial independence into a burning, urgent necessity. The dollar's exorbitant privilege was no longer just an economic edge for the US, it was now seen as a tool of coercion. China, already in a trade and tech battle with America, suddenly saw its massive holdings of U.S. bonds not as a safe asset, but as a potential hostage. India, proud of its strategic autonomy, realized its reliance on the dollar made it vulnerable. Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, has been asking the question out loud: who was it that decided that the dollar was the currency after the disappearance of the gold standard? For anyone wanting de-dollarization explained, this was the catalyst. The weaponization of finance created a shared vulnerability, uniting countries with very different politics and economies. The quiet chatter about alternatives became a roar. The goal was now clear: build a parallel financial universe, one immune to the political whims of the West. The war for economic independence was on, and the BRICS alliance became its headquarters. An economic war isn't fought with tanks, it's fought with payment systems, trade deals, and reserve assets. And the BRICS nations aren't just talking about an alternative, they're building it. These are the first shots being fired in this new economic conflict. Shot number 1, the alternative payment system, the BRICS bridge. The dollar's power rests on SWIFT. So, the number one goal for BRICS is to build a way around it. Their answer is a project that's been dubbed the BRICS Bridge. This isn't just a new app, it's a plan for a whole new set of financial rails. The vision is to use blockchain technology to connect the central banks of member nations directly, letting them trade with each other while completely sidestepping the US dollar and SWIFT. Here's how it would work. If India wants to buy oil from Russia today, that deal is probably done in dollars and routed through US banks. With a system like the BRICS Bridge, the transaction could be direct. India pays in rupees, Russia gets paid in rubles, and the whole thing settles almost instantly on a shared ledger. The dollar is cut out of the deal. While a fully integrated system is still in development, the project aims to link the existing domestic payment systems of member countries, like Brazil's incredibly successful PIX or India's UPI. The stated goals are to make transactions faster and cheaper. The unstated goal is far more important: to make them sanction-proof. At the 2024 Kazan Summit, BRICS formally introduced BRICS Pay, a payment system designed to facilitate these kinds of transactions, fueling intense speculation about a formal BRICS currency in 2025 and beyond. Shot number 2, ditching the dollar in trade. While the new system is being built, BRICS nations are already aggressively moving away from the dollar in their direct trade deals. This is de-dollarization happening right now, and the numbers are climbing fast. The use of local currencies in trade between BRICS countries has skyrocketed. For example, well over 90% of trade between Russia and China is now settled in rubles and yuan. And it's not just them. India has been settling major oil purchases from Russia in rupees. China and Brazil have deals to conduct billions of dollars in trade using their own currencies, the yuan and the rial. New BRICS members like the UAE are also starting to trade with India in their local currencies. This strategy does two things. First, it immediately chips away at the global demand for US dollars. Second, it builds the muscle memory and infrastructure for a world less dependent on a single currency. Every contract signed in yuan, every barrel of oil paid for in rupees, weakens the dollar's grip just a little bit more. It's a slow, methodical erosion of the dollar's dominance. If you're finding this breakdown of the new economic Cold War valuable, would you mind doing us a small favor? Hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel really helps us bring you more deep dives into the critical shifts shaping our world. Your support makes our research possible. Now, let's get to the third, and maybe the oldest, weapon in this very modern financial war. Shot number 3, the gold strategy to return to hard assets. The third shot BRICS is firing is a return to the most ancient and trusted form of money on Earth, gold. For the better part of a decade, the central banks of BRICS nations have been on an unprecedented gold buying spree. This isn't about nostalgia, it's a cold, calculated move to build a financial foundation that is completely disconnected from the US dollar and US government debt. For years, the default safe asset for any central bank was a US Treasury bond. But the freezing of Russia's reserves shattered that illusion. Suddenly, U.S. debt looked less like a safe haven and more like a political liability. The response has been clear. Countries like China, Russia, and India are systematically piling up gold while, in some cases, dumping U.S. debt. For the third year in a row, global central banks have collectively bought over 1,000 tons of gold annually, a rate far exceeding historical averages. Meanwhile, the dollar's share of global reserves has been steadily falling, hitting a multi-decade low. This raises the critical question: is a new BRICS currency, gold-backed, the ultimate endgame? While a full-on currency is still a long way off, the massive stockpiling of physical gold sends a powerful message. These nations are building their financial future on hard assets, not on promises from a geopolitical rival. It's the ultimate declaration of financial independence. The ultimate goal here probably isn't to replace the dollar with the yuan or any other single currency. The vision is far more radical. It's to accelerate the end of U.S. dollar dominance and create a multipolar financial world. In this new order, power wouldn't be concentrated in Washington, D.C., but spread out among several global powers. Trade would be settled in a basket of currencies, and no single nation could hold a financial veto over everyone else. The most potent symbol of this vision is the explosive growth of the BRICS alliance itself. What started with 5 nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has ballooned. In 2024, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates officially came on board. By January 2025, Indonesia also became a full member, the first from Southeast Asia. And the line to get in is long, with countries like Turkey, Malaysia, and Bolivia formally designated as partner nations. This expansion is a game changer. By bringing in major energy producers like the UAE and Iran, and with Saudi Arabia's membership status evolving, BRICS is mounting a direct challenge to the petrodollar system. With its new members, the expanded BRICS Plus bloc now represents nearly half of the world's population and accounts for a staggering portion of the global economy, by some measures over 40% of global GDP. This is more than an economic club, it's a geopolitical realignment. It's a coalition of the Global South, nations that have felt sidelined by Western-led institutions like the IMF and World Bank. They see BRICS as a way to amplify their voice and build their own institutions, like the new Development Bank, which is already prioritizing loans in local currencies. The stakes couldn't be higher. For the United States, this movement is the single greatest threat to its global power. A weaker dollar means higher borrowing costs, less ability to fund its deficits, and a serious blow to its geopolitical leverage. The power to impose sanctions would be severely blunted. For the rest of the world, the stakes are just as high. A shift to a multipolar system could lead to a more balanced world, but the transition could also bring massive instability and currency chaos as the old order crumbles. We are living through the first chapter of a fundamental rewrite of the global rulebook. What we're witnessing isn't just a collection of random economic choices. It is a coordinated and deliberate campaign to build an alternative to the architecture of American financial power. This economic war wasn't declared in a fiery speech, but through a series of cold, calculated actions. The first shot was the plan for a new, independent payment system designed to operate beyond America's reach. The second was the accelerating flight from the dollar in bilateral trade, a direct attack on its transactional supremacy. And the third was the strategic hoarding of gold, a return to a safe haven asset that no single nation can control. The goal is unmistakable: to forge a sanction-proof, multipolar financial world where a country's economic fate isn't decided in Washington. The BRICS alliance, bigger and more powerful than ever, is leading this charge. The pieces are moving. The new economic Cold War isn't some future prediction, it's happening now. The world we've known for 80 years is ending, and a new, uncertain one is being born. The ultimate question we all have to ask is, will this lead to a more balanced world or a more chaotic one? What do you think? Let me know your answer to that question in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on the biggest shifts shaping our world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Thanks for watching.